Hi everyone, welcome to BJ Investigates, a show I just created. I might never do again. Meet Kristen Houghton, an evangelical church lady from the 90s whose dream was to start a church.
Jesus is my top.
However, she moved to Hollywood and became a successful billionaire mogul. At least, that's what she'd have you think. Kris has built a $6.6 billion empire around her family and ex-husband. But when you peel back the designer brand deals and network television empires, you're greeted with questionable business connections and state-sanctioned psychiatric holds against the biggest rapper on the planet. So buckle up, because this investigation has only just begun.
November 5th, and now I'm 30, riding down life's highway with my friends at my side. My life without them wouldn't be complete. They are my joy and pride. We're big on carpool, Judas Lever, Bible study, Cheesecake Factory, baby showers, birthday parties, Valentino, church on Sundays.
So what this video is going to hopefully be about, the strange Hollywood connections to churches.
Kanye's Sunday service, a fusion of gospel, rap, and God, drawing believers and non-believers to weekly sermons. But with West's newly released album, Jesus is King, is it a ploy to sell records or to start something much bigger than that?
Kylie and Kendall have attended the evangelical church Hillsong, favorite of celebrities including Justin Bieber, and of course now his wife Haley goes there too.
I'm here to represent Jesus through me for other people, for his will to be done.
And the family has been photographed attending Sunday worship services together for years. So first bullet point, the family is responsible, so this is a quote, for boosting several other telegenic pastors to stardom, including Miami-based pastor Rich Wilkerson Jr.
I'm Rich Wilkerson.
Just look right at me.
I love my life. How sick is this?
All day. Every day.
Oh, and did I mention I'm a pastor?
Who actually married Kim and Kanye in Italy, and he later got his own reality show. So this is from like a book about the Kardashians. The church became a convenient prop whenever Kris or the family needed to burnish their image. After Kim's divorce from Kris Humphries,
Kim and Kris headed for divorce just 72 days after tying the knot.
the subsequent backlash, Kim started tweeting regularly about her church attendance.
I did. Kim Kardashian filed for divorce.
Her breakup with Kris Humphries has sparked a wave of criticism. There was even a mock vigil held outside of the Kardashian store Dash in New York City.
When people say that your last marriage was a stunt, that it was a whole thing was contrived for publicity, and that it was a stunt.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, first of all, if I logically think it out, why would someone think that way? We have an amazing fan base that watched the show. We don't do anything for ratings.
I want to keep you honest. So when you say you don't do anything for ratings, the choice to have your marriage, your wedding on television, you are aware that that is going to get a big rating.
I would have had a big wedding regardless, because that's just who I am.
Right.
So I would have had an extravagant wedding.
I'm just making the clarification.
Yeah.
So you didn't marry to get ratings?
No, I would not get married to, if anything, the tough decision to end that relationship was such a risk of losing ratings.
Enter Kris Jenner. She apparently went to Calvary Chapel at Westlake. For now, just know, Lou Taylor and her husband founded Calvary Chapel in 2001 or 2002 in Brentwood, Tennessee. So Kris Jenner went to Calvary Chapel in Westlake. pastor was Brad Johnson, disgraced for sexual infidelity, cheating on his wife, and he left his leadership position. He was trained by Rick Warren, author of the mega bestseller, The Purpose-Driven Life. Warren was a top proponent of California's anti-gay marriage law.
I'm opposed to having a brother and sister be together and call that marriage. I'm opposed to an older guy marrying a child and calling that a marriage. I'm opposed to one guy having multiple wives and calling that marriage.
You think those are equivalent to gays getting married?
Oh, I do.
The church that Kris went to, Calvary Chapel, was pastored by Brad Johnson, who was trained by Rick Warren. Rick Warren is the one who had all these ideas about you should get being gay.
If science finds that this is biological, indisputably, not something that can be explained in any other way except that people are born to be gay, would you change your position?
No, and the reason why
Why?
I'd be happy to tell you why. The reason why is because it doesn't matter to me. If it's biological, we'll be glad to know. We all have biological predispositions.
You're saying if it's part of your biology, it's your job to struggle against it if in fact it's the wrong thing.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Well, just because it seems natural doesn't mean it's best for you or society. I'm naturally inclined to have sex with every beautiful woman I see. And you say, well, because I have natural impulses toward the same sex, I shouldn't have to rein them in. Well, I disagree.
2007, Brad Johnson was at Calvary Chapel Westlake and he got in a scandal and then he left and he started working at Starbucks. Then Kris Jenner found him at the Starbucks with the help of Caitlyn Jenner. Kris sent Caitlyn on a mission to find Brad Johnson after the scandal. So she pulled a Lou Taylor. She went and found somebody disgraced and offered them something. This was Brad Johnson. She found him at the Starbucks. You've probably heard that story before. Quote, I felt God was saying to me, go get him, go find him, Kris recalled.
Hi. How are you? How are you? Are you getting excited? I can't wait. I know, right? Pastor Brad is someone that I met when I started going to a church years ago.
It's a joy to welcome each of you to this sacred and joyful occasion as we celebrate the union of Chloe and Lamar. You are husband and wife.
And we've been such good friends ever since that he's actually asked me to go online, get ordained, and help officiate at his wedding. So come down here. I'm you. Yes. She's here. And then the minute the ceremony's over, it's wine and champagne. I'm so excited.
It's going to be great.
So it's my baby mission to get Courtney and Scott married.
Yeah.
I think it's time. I mean, don't you think?
Well, they need to do it in the commitment of marriage. Sure. You can parent better if you have help. And looks like things are going really well for them.
Yeah,
and so it's a nice time for them to take an important step.
May 12th, 2007, pastors spoke in Calvary Chapel and admitted to his adultery. You know how the Christians be going out there and making people stand up and admit to the congregation that they're adulterers? And then he wrote an open letter of apology to Calvary Community Church, which I guess that's the new name of it. Kris Jenner found him working at a Starbucks and funded the opening of a new church over which Johnson would be the preacher.
All of us know somebody who needs what? A fresh start with God. That's right.
The new church is called Life Change Community Church. Then it later became known as California Community Church in Agora Hills, California. He officiated Chloe's wedding to Lamar Odom in 2009. 2012 or 2014, when Kim Kardashian first hooked up with Kanye, she sold clothes on eBay and donated money to Life Community Church. Now, we do know about that. That's been talked about before. So she sold some of her clothes at an eBay auction and she donated it to Life Community Church, but her mama was the one who owned Life Community Church. So it could be argued that that was a little bit of a tax evasion scheme, but I won't make that accusation. So the church believes they're homophobic. So this is Life Community Church. They fired a member of their executive team in 2012 for coming out as gay, noting during the firing it would never be accepted by the congregation. Kris and Caitlyn were especially taken with the church's pastor Brad Johnson, who built a 4,000 member congregation with his hip, irreverent style. Now we're in Cal Church, which is California Community Church, which is still Kris Jenner's church. They just be naming it all kind of things. You and I suffer from a spiritual disease called sin. And I hate this about modern day Christianity. How they act like when you're born, you're disgusting. You're worthless. You're horrible. You're awful. You deserve to die and you deserve hell. You're awful. You're tainted. You're terrible. And only God can save you. I do not subscribe to that. I think everyone is born pure and wonderful and innocent. But no, we don't suffer from a spiritual disease called sin. We suffer from a spiritual disease called churches being built for tax evasion purposes. Given this irreparable problem of sin, it is not irreparable. Even in Christianity, the reparableness of it is that God will fix it. Y'all don't even know your own damn religion and you're collecting millions of dollars from people. It's embarrassing. You ought to be ashamed and embarrassed of yourself. You and I are rebels Depressing, huh? Sounds hopeless? It is, except for the fact that this same God has a soft spot for rebels. It costs $1,000 a month to go to that church, or 10% of your income, whichever is higher. Then, strangely, Mel Gibson started a church, so we'll just throw him in here too. He plowed upwards of $68 million into his own church, the Holy Family Chapel, which is also in Agora Hills, California. Mel is listed as the church's CEO in federal tax records, and its last reported congregation numbered just 70 heavily screened worshipers. So you have to be screened to be a member of Mel Gibson's church. It's $68 million into his own church, tax-free. And it has 70 members in the congregation. This is a freaking money laundering. This is tax evasion and money laundering. In my opinion. All right, so here we're to the timeline. When Kris Jenner first started dating Robert Kardashian, she attended Bible studies led by conservative singer Pat Boone, who was a fierce critic of any number of liberal causes, from the pro-choice to the gay rights movement. October 2007 is when Keeping Up with the Kardashians aired. Kathy Griffin, this is Kathy Gifford, not Kathy Griffin. Kathy Lee Gifford, who used to be the co-host on Regis. Make sure they represent you accurately. Make sure they show you saying grace over the food and going to church. It's important. Why is that propaganda important? This was a family I dearly loved, Kathy said. This was a friend I prayed with about everything. Now her family was on the verge of the kind of fame that was truly going to change everything. I was happy for her and terrified for her at the same time.
Since you're the godmother to both Kylie and Kendall, what's the best piece of advice you've ever given them?
I would tell them, first of all, stay close to God. And we put people on pedestals that we're not made for. People aren't supposed to sit where only God should sit.
So this was weird to me to discover that Kathy Lee Gifford and Kris Jenner attended Bible studies together in the 90s. Kris Jenner really has been in this evangelical church since the 90s. In 2010, Corey Gamble, who's now Kris Jenner's boyfriend, fiance, sugar baby, I don't really know, he was accused of stalking, and someone got actually a restraining order against him. January 2011, Kim said, "Whatever it is, I give 10% away of my income to the church. That's what I was taught. Every year, absolutely." And then 1 year later, 2012, Kim starts dating Kanye. March 2013, an Inquirer article comes out and says that Kris is scared that Kylie is going to become a Scientologist by dating Jaden Smith. According to the insider in this article, Kris was concerned that Jaden Smith was going to pique Kylie's interest in the Church of Scientology, which could eventually go after her money and try to control her career. That's really interesting that Kris Jenner knows exactly what churches do to famous people, though, isn't it? Go after your money and try to control your career. Kris Jenner was scared that Kylie was going to become interested in a church that wasn't hers, that wasn't her church. And I've spoken about this a lot with my friend Jake. It seems like in Hollywood, if you're in young Hollywood, you really have three options. One, have a rich dad. You can do whatever you want. If you have some financial backing and you're just Beyonce is at that level at this point. So that's an option one. Option two, conservatorship, die, or go to jail. That's option two. So that's control, right? Someone wrangles you in and controls you. Number three, get wrapped up in one of these churches and let them control you.
We're here at Hillsong Conference 2017, having the best time, and got some good friends of mine that have stopped by on the couch. We've got Chad, Justin, and Carl. Love you. I love you, man.
I want you to know you're loved.
Thank you so much. Guys, so turned on some worship music. We prayed, had a couple cool moments, went to Young and Free.
Best moment.
You said it was...
Justin Bieber, we're going to get into him too. It is weird to me how intertwined with Christianity he is, because he doesn't act like, these people don't act like Christians.
I have a quick question for you. Justin Bieber becoming a pastor, do you have any advice for him?
I got nothing to say, my man. Sorry.
They just say they're Christian.
Amen.
Amen.
Title track, Believe. What do you believe in?
What do I believe in? I believe in elevators. No, I believe in God. I believe that Jesus died for my sins. I believe that you can do anything if you just believe.
Justin Bieber is taking y'all to church. I don't know.
Taking y'all to church.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen.
February 2015, Caitlyn, who was pre-coming out, hit a woman and killed the woman in her car while she was speeding. I really want to crunch down on this timeline. February 2015, Caitlyn hits the woman and kills her because Caitlyn's speeding. 1 month later, she starts talking to Vanity Fair about coming out as trans. And then the next month in April, Kris and Corey go on a double date with Billy Ray Cyrus and Tish Cyrus, making their relationship Instagram official. This same month, Caitlyn came out as trans. And then in June, Caitlyn comes out in the Vanity Fair interview. So February kills somebody, March starts talking about the interview, April comes out, and then June is all over the timeline. Yes, transgender representation queen. Okay, but what about the person you killed, queen, representation queen? And then at that same time, we're making another full circle. Remember Brad Johnson, who Kris went and found at a Starbucks? In June, the same month that Caitlyn comes out, Brad Johnson is described as, quote, Caitlyn Jenner's pastor, and refuses to discuss transition publicly. I don't comment on the lives of those who call California Community Church their home. You mean the spouse of your boss? Like, think about that, right? Like, oh, I can't comment on congregants. But what do we just find out? Caitlyn and Kris Jenner helped to go hunt down Brad Johnson so that Brad Johnson would be the pastor at their church. And here comes the media asking him questions. Oh, I can't comment on congregants. That's your boss. Like, and it's like they don't tell you that, right? We had to go and figure that out. So let's see what else is going on here. In April 2016, a book comes out called Kardashian Dynasty, The Controversial Rise of America's Royal Family by Ian Halperin, which I've already referenced earlier. In the book, it says that Kris told Caitlyn to pray away being transgender and that the church could help. The author notes that this sounds suspiciously like conversion therapy, adding that the idea of using religion to suppress homosexuality has a troubling history associated with evangelical Christianity, especially through the 80s and 90s when the idea gained momentum in various Christian ministries throughout the United States.
8 years ago, our guest today was a man literally living and working as a woman. Here he is during the year and a half that he spent that way, dressed as a woman. Now meet Cy Rogers of today. He no longer wears women's clothing. In fact, Cy says today he is not gay at all, that he thought he was, but he's put those days as a homosexual behind him. Cy is a husband, he's a father. He says he now helps other homosexuals to also put their gay lifestyles behind them. I guess I would have a million questions for you, Cy, but let me ask you first. When did you realize that you were gay? At what age?
Well, it's a systematic build-up. Let me explain. I remember when I was 14, 15, 16, I said, aha, the aha syndrome. I must have been born gay because as far back as my early childhood memories, 6, 7, say, I can remember finding that I was attracted toward the same sex. That was not a sexual attraction, but there was a legitimate attraction toward them, and why, and hopefully we can address some of that today. But it went pretty far back, and then I began to act out on that at the ripe old age of 7.
Uh-huh. And you then grew up being gay?
Well, at least because I was not, unlike many gay men who are masculine, I was stereotypically effeminate, you know, the walking billboard, and people used to tell me I was gay, whether I was or wasn't. I might as well have been because I was certainly labeled that.
How does your wife and your kids feel about this?
Well, you can talk to them a little bit later. Actually, the kid's asleep, but my wife will be joining me later, and you can ask her that question.
You still have a very feminine aspect.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm light years from pantyhose, lady. I may never ever be a Burt Reynolds lookalike, but I don't believe that I have to be to enjoy being a man and a happy heterosexual at that.
Now, Cy Rogers is one of the darkest pieces of Hillsong's history. The LGBTQ+ community have been long suppressed and mistreated by Hillsong's belief system, and Cy Rogers is no different. Self-proclaimed reformed gay. I'm trying to be serious. What in the hell is a reformed gay? This is sad. Reformed from what? Anyway, I don't know what a reformed gay is, but he calls himself that. So his body, his choice, y'all. And former executive director of Exodus. Remember Exodus, the conversion camp. This guy is a self-proclaimed reformed gay. Reformed from what? We don't know. He now identifies as transgender and is married to a woman. So I don't know what their pronouns are. Wrote books and tapes and would preach at Hillsong conferences about overcoming his gay demons.
Jesus did not say to medicate a demon. He said to cast them out. I understand that you're saying that you help homosexual men now be going straight. A lot of people would argue with that and say that there's nothing wrong with being homosexual. Everybody is different.
Let me explain this.
Are you saying that homosexual men need fixing?
I am vice president of a worldwide network of agencies which help people overcome homosexuality. For over 12 years, our offices in Europe, North America, the South Pacific, and Caribbean have helped people who have come to us. Quite frankly, those of you who are adults, your sex life is your business. No, they come to us, and I'll tell you what, all of our 60 agencies have a booming business because not everybody who is gay wants to be. And I get mail from over 40 countries. For every one person who writes me and says, I like being gay, I hear from probably 10 more who say, I wish to God I could be anything but a homosexual.
Cy would not only serve as the president of Hillsong's male conversion therapy program called Exodus, but his testimony would also be propped up to enroll even more LGBTQ plus people in their program.
Cy Rogers is one of my favorite speakers, and I'll never forget the first time I heard him. It was in a church setting. His testimony filled me with the hope that if God could help him, God could help anybody.
According to the Miami News, Exodus says homosexuality, much like alcoholism, is a lifestyle that can be overcome. Reverend Cy Rogers, vice president of Exodus International, an ex-gay ministry, told the Miami News the following: "We feel that the Lord wants everybody to be born again. We believe homosexuality is wrong. We believe it is a system of spiritual and emotional condition that can be effectively changed." Cy was actively mentoring hundreds of LGBTQ plus youth with his harmful teachings, including the girls of Mercy Ministries. If you look at the timeline, what was happening in the 80s and 90s? Kris and Kathy were in Bible studies with Pat Boone. You had the Houstons in Australia setting up gay conversion therapies, and all these people are all starting to fall in on each other. It's the same group. Throughout the book, Halprin documents Kris Jenner's associations with questionable church figures, including several who clearly promoted homophobia. A friend of Kris's said she was never comfortable with the liberal, secular Hollywood crowd. She had lots of opportunities to hobnob with those people, but she preferred the Giffords. Talk show host Kathy Lee. She was never comfortable with the liberal, secular Hollywood crowd. Kris pushed Caitlyn into Christian therapy to cure her of transgenderism. That's what this says, not me. Kris feared the truth could damage the family brand and that her actions delayed the gender reassignment she craved for many years. Kris said she had a hard time accepting Caitlyn's transition and used God to get through it. Caitlyn says at one point she had size 36B breasts at the time that she got together with Kris, and the two came up with certain rules and guidelines, like example given, no dressing up in women's clothes, that made their relationship work. The book claims Kris arranged daughter Kim Kardashian's marriage to Kanye West, and that the rapper wouldn't have married the sex tape star if it wasn't for her mother.
West was being treated for sleep deprivation when his doctor reportedly called 911 saying he was psychotic.
I think he definitely is going to need to be hospitalized, so I wouldn't just do the police by itself.
Don't scare me, please. What's going on?
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies.
Never go against the family.